That's Panda Bear from the new album Sinister Grift. Now, we found Noah Lennox, the man behind Panda Bear, and who is also a member of Animal Collective, on the road in the US just ahead of release date. Lennox, who now lives in Portugal, has gathered friends and bandmates together to make this his first solo album in 5 years. We begin our conversation with the album's title. So what is Sinister Grift?
Yeah, so I usually keep a note on my phone with titles in it because it's typical for me to like a title and then 2 weeks, 2 months down the road, it doesn't really hit in the same way. So
Right.
I just have an exhaustive list, and if the thing still feels good a year later, I figure it's probably good to go.
Yep.
And Sinister Grift is one I had for a long time. So I wasn't entirely exactly what it was going to mean in the context of the songs because I hadn't written the lyrics yet. But now being on the other end of the thing, I feel like the way it appears to me is this idea that we have, or this illusion that we can create for ourselves in our lives that we can somehow sidestep or avoid regret, mistakes, pain, causing pain to others. If we're just careful enough, or if we're good people, or we plan in the right way, that we can avoid these sort of what in reality are just sort of facts of life.
Right. And unfortunately, it seems like there are a lot of folks, or some folks at least, that feel the opposite, that they should be able to say or do anything with complete disregard for anybody else's feelings or thoughts or opinions. So,
Yeah, it's not a great way to be.
no, I agree. I agree. And
Not a
so when,
huge fan of insensitivity.
yeah, there's a lot of that around. Um, so music-wise, when did this start coming together for you, the songs, other than the title itself?
So I think it was 2019 that I got an offer to play a festival in Madrid, and I thought it might be a nice thing to write a whole bunch of new songs and basically do a whole new set of new songs. Didn't turn out great, kind of bombed, but
Oh dear.
uh, I thought I played good, but
Right?
it's a tough go in the daytime at a festival that was really, it felt like one of these things where the town puts on a thing and people from the town just sort of come out to see music.
Right?
But I was playing songs that people hadn't heard before, so there was a lot going against me on that. But
Right.
uh, so I'd written maybe 4 or 5 of these things for that, and then I feel like that was sort of when I thought maybe I'm starting to have a bunch of songs that I like that could maybe be an album. And then it was just before Josh came in 2023,
Hmm.
the summer of 2023, that I wrote kind of the rest of the songs.
Gotcha, gotcha. So you recorded mostly in your home studio in Lisbon. Um,
Yes.
and you have quite a few other than Josh, other folks on the record. In fact, most of Animal Collective itself. But I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, that those were done kind of remotely, that not everybody traveled that way. So what are some of the
Yes.
pluses and minuses in working that way?
I mean, the plus is I really enjoy the remote thing insofar as it gives me a lot of time to just sort of make sure I've got something I like.
Right?
There is something to be said for performance under pressure. Sometimes that will bring stuff out, but I do like, especially when I do features or remixes, I do like to just sort of sit with the thing for a long time. And sometimes it takes a couple days, sometimes it can be weeks until you sort of have this moment where it feels like something kind of magical has happened, or interesting at the very least. So that's a pro to it. I guess the con is that the social aspect of it you lose, and I
Right?
think that's more and more today a more important thing, to make sure that we get out and experience each other and exchange thoughts, feelings, perspectives.
Yep. Yep.
So that's a con, I would say, to the whole remote thing. But
Gotcha. Yeah. And did Josh come out and hang with you in Lisbon?
Yeah, Josh was with me for the full 5 weeks that we recorded, and then the Christmas holidays came. He started mixing in January, and then I think the last week of February of 2024, I went to Baltimore, and we did what wound up to be a bunch of really crucial stuff on the record. But
Oh, like
we
what?
spent so the piano on Anywhere But Here, the floor tom, which kind of carries the song in Venom's in, and we also it was there was a kind of synthetic quality to the recordings due to Josh has a very plug-in style of producing, which I appreciate and
Yeah.
like, but I'd always had it in my mind that at the end of the process we would basically stem out all the recordings and send it through like a proper mixing console desk, one of these old tanks. And there was this studio right way in Baltimore that Josh had done some work at, and so the last day of working, we went in there and just sort of got that kind of
Right, right.
desk grit on the
Got
on the stuff.
some of that analog warmth that comes with it.
That's right. It just sort of made the thing feel like it settled a little bit. It was kind of hyper, and
Yeah.
it just sort of rested.
Yeah. Okay. And of course, you and Josh go way back to second grade or something, or I guess so.
Yes,
Has your relationship, the way you work, changed over the years? Is it pretty steady? Does it fluctuate?
pretty steady, I would say. I mean, in the beginning, it was really just silly voices and making weird sounds and seeing what stuff did on the recorder.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
for a long time kind of all we got into. But I'm happy to say that, and this is something I noticed while we were doing it, that there's a very specific feeling I get that's exactly the same as it was back then, where you make something and you listen back to it, and there's a very, very distinctive feeling of satisfaction or contentment that I get from it that I'm happy to report is has never changed.
Nice, nice, nice. Now you mentioned Anywhere But Here. It's got some lovely harmonies. It remind me of the early 70s version of the Beach Boys, that Sail on Sailor kind of Holland era of the band. Is that something
Mhm.
that is a touchstone for you?
I guess I'll wait until voices inside my mind are out of time and in a place close by, all occupied until it's end, until it's end.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a huge fan of the Beach Boys, but there's so many vocal groups and so much choral music. I feel like has been super inspiring for me. I sang in the choir in high school. I was a big
Right.
fan of that. I feel like the singing in the choir in high school more than anything else in terms of harmony, vocal harmony was kind of like my main inspiration, I'd say. But definitely as big a fan as the Beach Boys as anybody else.
And when those harmonies that we hear, are they all you? Are they layers of you, or do you have other folks singing along with you?
So on the record, it's all me,
Yeah.
and then my daughter does the kind of narrated portions in Portuguese, which she also wrote.
Right.
Live, it's my friend Maria, my friend Tome, and my girlfriend Rivka who do the harmonies. But on the
Right.
record, it's just me.
Right. And what do you got? Who's with you on the road?
So these are all kind of like heroes. I like to think of them as all stars in my band. I feel super lucky and grateful because they all do music on their own or with other bands. So I feel super lucky that they're doing this thing with me. It's my friend Maria Reis from Lisbon, Tome Silva, who's from across the river in Lisbon. He's the youngest of us and can do it all: engineering, mixing, live sound, drumming,
Yep.
singing. My longtime friend Tim Coe, who used to play in Ariel Pink's band, among many other bands.
Right.
And then Rivka Ravid sings and does sample work. She's in a band called Spirit of the Beehive.
Gotcha. And the songs, I think I read somewhere you like to do a lot of live experimentation. So is that happening with these things, or is that just something
Yeah, a
you
little
wrote?
bit more in terms of like the tone of the song. Like I feel like over time, we've found that the kind of connective tissue to everything we're doing is a more kind of rocked out sort of thing, a
Right?
little bit more like garagey, kind of psych garagey zone. Has been sort of what we found kind of works for everything. There is a bit of improv in between songs sometimes, or there's like jammier sections of songs, but for the most part, it's all pretty composed.
Right. And how's it all going over? Do people seem to be on the same wavelength you are these days? Audience wise?
Uh, yeah, it's been going good. I think I underestimated. We're doing a tour where we essentially open for Toro y Moi, if you know
Right.
them.
Yep.
Chaz is such a great guy. We're having a great time on the tour, but I must say I underestimated the. I thought there'd be more kind of overlap between his audience and mine, and it does not seem to be the case. I would say
Ah,
it's about 90-10 at these shows.
oh dear. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So does that change the way you approach your show then when you know that that's how the audience is? No.
No, the show is the show. We do our thing, and you take it or you leave it.
I hear you. All right. And you've released
Not in an aggressive way,
no, I didn't think you meant it that way.
in a loving way.
Of course. And you released Defense as a single and a video.
Yeah.
This is the final track on the record.
Looking for defense, nothing left to do but hang my head and cry. What was the intent? Looking to prove this move is dignified. If you got an alibi, give me some.
I think of it as the light at the end of the tunnel on the record. There's this sort of, it feels like the record kind of dive bombs into the ground emotionally, and I
Right.
really didn't want to end the record in a bleak on a note that felt sort of bleak and downtrodden. So
Yeah.
defense is meant to be this kind of feeling of like maybe there's hope for the future. It feels like the characters in the music, defense is the moment where the kind of the new reality that's been thrust upon them and so kind of uh, difficult to endure. Like there's sort of an embracing of the change and what I think is a kind of hope for the future there.
Okay. Yeah, because it's preceded by a song called Elegy for Noah Lou, which is
Yes.
over 6 minutes long, and it's kind of this, it's the longest track on the album, kind of a brooding kind of vibe going on. Is that what you're talking about
Yeah.
with the kind of bringing it up from that?
For sure. Yeah, that's the real emotional desert of that's the wasteland of the record, I would say.
Never knew my place, looking for some love and grace. Swept in the swell of the storm, looking for an embrace that's warm. For you, I look for you.
What it makes me think of is I've come to think about the record as sort of analogous to the hero's journey, if you know what that is. This sort of like archetypal story you find in mythologies from all over the world that keeps coming up again and again. It's always the same sort of trajectory where there's sort of this good period and then there's a fall from grace and then kind of like a trip through the wasteland and then some sort of resolve at the
Right.
end. And that's really how I see the record. So I can't say it was totally by design, but it's something I sort of noticed after the
These
fact.
things happen, and there are those, just hearing you describe that, I'm guessing there are those who would think that was correlation with what's going on in the States at the moment as well. So politically.
Perhaps. I mean, there's definitely a reason why you find this story throughout time,
Yeah.
all over the place. It just seems to be part of the deal.
History repeats itself.
Truly.
Uh, and and you did have other all the members or a lot of the members of Animal Collective on this record. Was that which is a first for you, I guess? So was
Yeah.
that by design, or it just happened to be it made sense for the music, or how did that come about?
It sort of slowly happened, but it felt so good. I wondered why I'd never done it before.
Right.
But it was kind of a slow burn because I'd asked Brian to make me a sound pack, these folders of various types of sounds that ultimately we wound up using a whole lot on the record. I knew
Right.
I had Josh recording the thing and producing the thing with me, so once I had those two guys, I figured I got to find a place for Dave, and there was this place in Ensmeet that I really wanted, specifically a noise solo, and I knew he'd really crush that. And then after that, it just felt so good having kind of like a different perspective or a different flavor thrown in there on a lot of this stuff, especially because I'd recorded all the instruments myself. I think I was really sort of keen to just see how somebody else's perspective might change the thing, and so we just kept adding people to it.
You mentioned Ed's Meat. It's got this kind of cool groove to it. Does it? You're a drummer, so is it something that you just lay it down and there it is, or does it take some time to get into that mode? Or?
And when it is my time to take it all, and when my motor stalls at the edge, and if it is that time to take it all, till the heart don't beat the end.
I think I had made the Ends Meet demo as an electronic thing at first,
Right.
and then probably worked it out on guitar. I guess being a drummer, I sort of approach everything from a very rhythmic perspective. Everything is always in sort of the James Brown mold. Everything is kind of supposed to serve a kind of larger rhythmic machine whole.
Yep.
So once I had the guitar and the singing kind of down, it was just about finding the rhythm that supported that sort of thing. And it doesn't always happen quickly, but I feel like I know it when I hear it.
That guy. All right. So this is your first solo album in like 5 years, and like I say, it's coming out next week. You're on tour with it. Are you thinking ahead to what you want to do next? Are you back doing stuff with the Animal Collective, thinking about more solo stuff or other things?
I want to keep doing this all this year, all next year. Then it's kind of a big empty space,
All right.
but I'm sure there'll be another Animal Collective thing at some point. Just don't know when, but probably. I mean, looking back through history, that's usually the kind of cycle we do. We kind of come together and then we fall apart. And
Yep. Yep.
so I would imagine the next thing is probably an Animal Collective thing.
Cool. All righty. And hopefully you can bring your thing down to this part of the world. It'd be nice to
I
see.
sure hope so. I'm hoping to get over there to do Panda Bear stuff.
Right.
But 2026, we'll see.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 13th Floor's Music Talk series, please be sure to subscribe to the website or to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. There's a whole lot more to discover.